Just a word to our Prime Minister.
The king, there was someone with a digestive tract problem.
If you don't want to heed to the word of God, you might have a friend come into Ottawa and knock on your door.
I blow the wind of God.
The wind of God.
On you.
I'm just getting into a prophetic vein. I don't make this stuff up.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that.
Not waiting for them to bring God back to Parliament. We'll do it.
Proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from the beautiful BC, and we're afraid about Florida. This is Left and Right 2.0. My name is Kevin, and I really don't like elevator music. It's bad on so many levels. Ooh.
It's got a lot of ups and downs. You know.
Lots of ups and downs. Joining me, as usual, is a team that knows a plethora of quirky animal facts, like the one that most buffaloes don't have wings. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
Oh, guys. Thank you for joining us. This show is brought to you by our patrons. Just go to you too can become a patron. Just go to patreon.com/LATV, and you can help us by giving us money so that Helen will stop rescuing kittens and become a cat lady before her age as well. And today, in the second half of the show, we'll be talking to Ethan Siegel. But first, let's do our usual chit chat. Guys, how have you been?
Excellent. Always.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty good. A little bit disappointed the whole Giants Trump riot never happened. So
I know, right? I was almost like popcorn and say, okay, January 6th, part 2. Is it going to happen now?
Yeah. It was
falling apart, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's embarrassing when they ask, like, what do you think of the turnout? And a guy responds, well, I think there's more reporters than there are protesters here. So
yeah, one guy's like, I don't need them. I'm taking care of that. I told Trump, I got this. Okay, I got it. I'm good. Okay.
I you know, it's exactly what I predicted years ago with Donald Trump. He says he will just disappear with a whimper eventually. He's still there, but eventually he's just going to fade away like a little whimper, and that'll be it.
Well, we need him to beat DeSantis first, so hopefully he doesn't go away too quick. We need him to beat DeSantis, then lose, then go away. That's what we need. We should
do like that Bugs Bunny cartoon that just saws off Florida and it just drifts into this.
We'll save you though, Brent.
I'd be fine with anarchy.
Yeah, plate tectonics don't fail us now.
All right, let's do some chit chat. Guys, if I give you the name Ludwig van Beethoven, you guys will conjure up images of the classical piano concertos from a brilliant mind. It's also well known that the musical master was plagued by health issues and even hearing loss. Beethoven died in Vienna on March 26, 1827, at the age of 56. What's today? Today is the 20 today. So he died today, essentially in 1827.
He's officially a decomposing composer.
Oh, that's good. I didn't realize he was so young. He was 56 when he died. Wow.
Yeah, he was only 56. So nearly 200 years after Ludwig van Beethoven's death, researchers pulled DNA from strands of his hair, searching for clues about the health problems and hearing loss that plagued him. Now, they weren't able to crack the case of the German composer's deafness or severe stomach ailments that he complained about, but they did find a genetic risk for liver disease, plus a liver-damaging hepatitis B infection in the last months of his life. These factors, along with his chronic drinking, were probably enough to cause a liver failure, which is why they believed to have killed him, according to a study published Wednesday in the journal Current Biology. While researchers didn't find clear genetic signs that what caused Beethoven's gastrointestinal issues, they found that celiac disease and lactose intolerance were unlikely causes. In the future, the genome might offer more clues as we learn about how genes influence health, Begg said. The research also led to a surprising discovery. When they tested DNA from living members of the extended Beethoven family, because apparently they're still around, scientists found a discrepancy in the Y chromosome that are passed down from the father's side. The Y chromosome from the 5 men matched each other, but they didn't match the composers. So somebody was
Man.
somewhere in there where there was a little trading on the side, I think.
Help, man.
A little dishonesty going on there.
Yeah. So this suggests there was an extra pair paternity event, quote unquote, somewhere in the generation before Beethoven was born, Beck said. In other words, a child born from an extramarital relationship in the composer's family tree.
That's not that uncommon back then, though.
No, well, it's not uncommon today.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that we find that like nearly, well, not quite 200 years, like 196 years, something like that. But it's pretty cool that we find that out, using science. You gotta love that about science, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the Maury Povich episode for that, like, you're not the dad. 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 What?
I believe that's the Beethoven's unknown 69th symphony.
Okay.
Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to say this, that he was spending too much time on the 69th, which is why he ended up not being the dad. But it's like I wasn't sure if I should go for the joke or not. We don't have kids listening, right?
Oh yeah. In Money Might Grow on Trees news, like you heard me, the old adage from your parents about waste. Enter Australia, the land down under, that always loves to tell you, hold my beer. Turns out money can grow on trees. More specifically, gold can grow on trees. Now, I was shocked by what I saw too. Gold hunters need only consult the trees if they want to track down some of that sweet AU. Why? Because when certain trees strike gold with their roots, the chemical element ends up in their leaves. It seems in Australia, gold literally can grow on trees.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the gold leaves are found in the eucalyptus trees that are able to transport microscopic particles of gold from deep deposits thanks to their incredibly long roots. The roots of the Eucalyptus marginata tree can stretch to 40 meters, which is 130 feet, into the ground in search of water in an arid landscape. And it seems they can pick up a few things along the way.
So I'm just trying to think, like, does it go into fruit? Because you could, like, chip your tooth and get a filling at the same time.
Eucalyptus trees, and then we know koalas eat eucalyptus, so maybe the koalas are way more valuable than we think. It's like, pop them open and say, hey, look at that, there's gold in here.
Yeah, screw the goose with the golden egg is the koala with the golden...
shit.
Yeah, okay.
This becomes interesting because now that we know this, the presence of these trees are becoming a much less intrusive way of prospecting for gold. Because in the old days, of course, you had to drill and trying to find a vein. But now, if you can study some of the leaves on these these trees with these very deep roots and realize, yeah, there is gold in these leaves, then we know that tree is sitting very close to a deposit somewhere. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Here I am thinking it's like there's some farmer somewhere with some gold paint. I'm not going to sell it for a fortune.
Yeah.
Painting all the trees with gold on it.
What do you mean? That tree's yellow, buddy. It's a gold tree. It's a eucalyptus tree.
Yeah, with the property values going down, just go around and start painting some of the gold on some of the leaves in your around your property or whatever. It's just like, sell your house to a mining company.
We could probably sell that to Christians. Just tell them it's a holy tree or something. And there's gold in the tree, and they'll just believe it. And
they'll buy silver stuff from Jimmy Baker that turns your skin blue. So they'll buy everything, right?
But I mean, I never understood why Christians can't make the link that gold. They always seem gold as valuable. You go into a church, there's gold everywhere. Where? Why? Why would God care about gold? It's a worthless material. There's not really much you can do with it. It's valuable to us humans because of the economy, but besides that, it's stupid.
Well, they have streets of gold in heaven. I guess if you want to buy something, you just run out and grab one of the street bricks, and then you can go buy stuff.
Streets of gold, you know how slippery that would be? The car would lose all traction and just slide.
It's a metal street. Yeah, that's good.
little bit of rain or something like that, that thing just slides all the way down.
First lightning storm. Gold's conductive, so first electrical storm, everybody's toast.
That's true too.
You'd have to put like suction cups on your tires or something, so you do.
Yeah. It would sound really weird. Yeah.
It sounds weird.
Noise? Oh, just the suction cup fell off.
Somebody driving by. That's all.
I'm strangely turned on by it too for some reason.
Weird sucking noise.
In the terrible environment news, plastic rocks have been found on a remote volcanic island off the Brazilian coast in what geologists have described as a new and terrifying development. They've added that the discovery is yet another sign of how human activity is drastically changing the natural world and even Earth's geology. Dubbed, I'm going to master this, plastiglomerates, the rocks are a mixture of sedimentary granules and other debris that have been fused together by plastic melted from volcanic activity. So in other words, plastic that somehow made its way near a volcano, melted, and then fused with the rock, and all of a sudden you have a rock that's half plastic, half rock.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking of politicians. Like, I knew we shouldn't have used that volcano as a landfill back in the 80s.
Exactly.
I thought it would eat it all. I don't know. Just melt it and you just go away.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, literally. So at first it was reported by Reuters. Geologists from the Federal University of Paraná, recently made a discovery on Trinidad Island, a green turtle refuge with no permanent human settlement, found in the Atlantic about 1,140 kilometers or 708 miles from Brazil's southern states of Espírito Santo. The scientists couldn't initially identify the strange bluish-green rock, so they ran a number of chemical tests on the samples. This revealed that they are made from both rocky sediments and plastic, most likely from fishing nets, a major contributor to plastic pollution in the world's ocean. So, congratulations, mankind. Pollution has now reached geology. Congratulations. Yay.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest problems with like the environment, like that impacts the environment, is the fact that these fishermen, they will go out with these giant nets, and it's on an industrial level, right? So we're talking giant nets, and a whole bunch of companies doing the same thing. The nets get stuck, they leave them. Yeah. And so they're just everywhere out there. And that's like why, I think we did a big boycott against tuna at one time. It was a while ago. But buying from tuna companies, because they would just leave the nets out there, and then dolphins and everything else would get stuck in the nets. It was just a mess. Yeah. And it's pretty common from what I understand.
Unfortunately, these boycotts, although they're well meant, they work in places like North America, Canada, the U.S., and parts of Europe. But in the starving world, you're not going to look twice for the price of your tuna. You're just going to get the tuna no matter what the source is from, right? That's one of the problems with it. So this recent discovery on Trinidad Island is particularly shocking, and it's relatively remote and home to a diverse selection of rare wildlife. The island serves as one of the main nesting sites for the green sea turtle, and Brazil has been known to harbor nurseries of humpback whales as well. So this is really bad news.
Oh God!
Sorry to finish with bad news like that, but
it's fucked up, man. Come on,
it's fucked up.
Now a puppy story. So
yeah,
don't worry, I got you.
There we go.
Dawn will have something for us because she's bound to do something that'll make us go.
All right, so I was doing the old scrolling of social media. Laugh so hard, but so I had to bring it to you. A woman who pooped her pants halfway through a marathon and ran with it in her shorts until she crossed the finish line and achieved a personal record.
Well, shit happens.
That's a shitty race.
Yeah.
Oh. Tamara Terlorskin.
That's bullshit,
Well, if it was a running of the bulls, it would be bullshit, but
Yeah. On the bright side, second place slid across the finish line. No?
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
Everybody else after her had to check their shoes first. Says Phil.
Tamara's digestive tract is a well-oiled machine. Whenever she has a race or a long run day, her bowels automatically clear before she hits the road. Nothing was different the day of the Mountains 2 Beach Marathon, her sixth race of 26.2 mile distance in 2018. And yet about halfway through the race, she realized she needed to go again. How she handled the urge was unusual, by pooping her pants. But she believes it serves her well. Terlorskin ended up achieving a personal record as well as a legend status in her running circles.
How much did she reduce her weight where she sped up that much?
I mean, you won the race, but you're forever immortalized as the woman who shit her pants to win the race. I'm not sure I'd want that victory. Right?
They say any news, bad or good, is all good advertisement.
I'm thinking she made up her best time before she pooped her pants. Gotta get to the bathroom. And did not make it in time.
What if you think it's because she had explosive diarrhea? Kind of give her a jolt forward, you know? It's like...
Exactly, it's like nitrous, you know. No, but it's like you always wonder, like, is there a line where it's like now you're too passionate about running? That's the line right there. That's
I think so.
You're too passionate.
As a guy who's a weightlifter, I have seen that. I've seen guys in the gym, like they're so focused and they're lifting super heavy, and all of a sudden you can hear them shit their pants. But they're so focused. It's like, dude, that's too far. That's too much, man.
Yeah, you should care less about this. Just tiny bit less.
Use the bathroom first, then come back and do your
lessons. That's funny.
Lorskin was a new mom when she shot for her personal record. After having her first child, Talorskin, then 31, was fueled by a sort of new mom energy. Some runners say they become faster after giving birth. I don't know.
I'm just glad she wasn't pregnant while running, because she probably would have just given birth and kept running with the baby on a corner. You know? That's dedicated.
Training was going really well. I knew I was in really good shape, said Terlorskin, an event planner in Sacramento, California, who leads a local women's running group. The Mountains 2 Beach Marathon, which starts in Ojai, California, and ends in the coastal city of Ventura, west of Los Angeles, would be her first postpartum race, and she thought she could set a personal record, and for the first half of the race she was on track to do just that. But at the mile 30, so you're right, Troy, she ran faster before she pooped.
The joke wasn't good, but it was still true.
I think she was just running away from her newborn baby. So shit, I shouldn't be crying all stop. I just gotta get away.
Well, she probably got to have a peaceful shit, I guess. But at mile 13 or 14, she realized she needed to go to the bathroom. She didn't want to lose physical or mental momentum by stopping, nor did she want one pit stop to prompt her colon to request several. I thought, I don't know if it's possible to poop while running, but I will try, Toloskin said. I didn't want one poop to mess it all up.
Oh, God.
You can. I mean, that's on Jackass.
Yeah.
50-mile-an-hour shit or something like that.
So without stopping, she relieved herself into the built-in underwear in her shorts. I had to focus, she said, and continued on her way. It just came out, and I felt a lot better, she said. Dolores doesn't think anyone noticed, and she said she didn't give a shit if they did. Others don't judge.
Said it felt good. It always reminds me.
Well, I think she was using a biological weapon and everybody behind her. It's like, oh, God, I'll get too close to her.
Yeah. She must have like baby powder or something in those built-in underwear to keep the smell away.
But the thing is if you're trying to pass her, you got to hold your breath to try to pass her, and you just can't. Yeah. It's like you need the oxygen at the point.
It's funny. It always reminds me of that with stuff like that when people say it feels good. It reminds me of this and Harold and Kumar, the KKK guys. They're like taking a piss and they're like, I don't know. Sometimes when it comes to feeling good, I put pissing right up there with coming and shitting. It's like, okay.
It's a new level when you're doing the running. That's a whole new thing there.
It's a whole other level of feel good.
It's like a Red Green episode one time. It's like, you know you're getting old when taking a piss feels better than sex. And then, like, when I'm listening to this when I'm younger, I'm like, oh, that's just ridiculous. And then all of a sudden you start getting old. It's like, oh, that was a really. Man, I've been holding that back for hours.
That was a release right there.
And then it's like, oh crap, Red Green was right. I'm old now.
She maintained a PR pace with soiled shorts for roughly 13 more miles. She kept her mind focused on maintaining her fast clip, not on what was in her shorts. When she neared the finish line, she yelled to her friends, "I pooped my pants!"
And everybody's like, "We know."
It's cool.
Lady,
Yeah, the way you're back, we all knew.
lady, you just won the race. What are you going to do? I pooped my pants. No, you're supposed to say, I'm going to Disneyland. That's what you're supposed to say.
They got toilets there, right? No.
Larkin quickly hit the medical tent for baby wipes and cleaned up in the porta potty. She said that it was all worth it to run a 3-hour, 7-minute marathon, her fastest about 1 minute and 20 seconds, 13 months postpartum. Runners can experience the trots for a few key reasons. A New York City dietitian who works with gastroenterology practice told insiders that long-distance running could trigger the bowel simply because of the mechanics of the sport. Your organs are jostling around. It can also lead to temporary incontinence since your blood is shuttled away from the digestive tract and towards your legs. What you consume before and during a race matters too. A high-fat dinner the night before could lead to more toilet time, even if you aren't running a marathon on the next day. A race day gels with lactose and fructose, and their main carbohydrate source, as opposed to straight glucose, can be harder for some people to digest. But sometimes the race day runs just happen. No matter what you've done to prepare in the case, runners recommend not noting ahead of time where the portable toilets will be on the route and tucking some toilet paper or baby wipes in the pocket of a fanny pack. Or you can take Turlarkin's unconventional advice and just keep going. If I had to stop in a porta potty, she said, who knows what would have happened.
Would have taken longer than a minute. So
I'm thinking of a reporter. It's like, what are you doing to prepare for the race? Well, depends.
That's good.
Oh man, what a story! Well, you know what? I'm putting my money on that woman because she's a survivor. If aliens are chasing you, she will not stop.
She'll keep shitting and going.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of that female astronaut who found out her husband was cheating on her, and so she threw on some astronaut diapers or whatever, and drove straight from Florida to some other states.
I remember that story.
Yeah, I think it was like a 10 or 12-hour drive or something like that. Or no stop. She just crapped in her pants on the way. So apparently it makes you drive faster too. So
multiple uses. Yeah.
Oh man, thank you so much for that, Dawn. All right, Troy, my man, you got one of those truth, myth, or balderdash things going on?
Yeah, I am doing old school cosmology today.
Cosmology.
Yeah, like religious cosmology.
Religious cosmology.
Oh yeah, so basically how they used to think that the universe worked way back when or whatever. So first question, and this one you should be able to guess. Although ancient Hebrews believed the Earth was flat, the majority of early Romans knew the Earth was a globe. So they changed the scriptures accordingly. Truth, false, or balderdash?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, well, known Christianity today, they've never been much to take scientific advice and change their things. So I think that's false.
No, it's true.
Really?
Isaiah 40:22 refers to the circle of the earth, but the Hebrew word that they used was circle, as in like flat like a coin or drawn by a compass. They had another word for a circle like a ball or a globe. but because the fact that, like I said, like Romans knew that the Earth was a globe and not flat, they used the translation. They changed it to the translation to mean globe and not like flat, like a coin, like it was originally.
Huh.
So
yeah, people use that one still to this day a lot, and I constantly have to be like, the word that they translated it from was circumference. Is it like the you know?
A circle drawn by a compass or whatever.
Yeah. Like not a globe. No, it's not.
Sure wasn't from circumcision.
Yeah,
that made no religious sense. The Earth is shaped like a flaccid.
The skin of the Earth. Okay. Next one is multiple choice. Who was the first person to suggest the sun was at the center of our galaxy, and the Earth revolved around the sun? Was it Astericus of Samos, Galileo, Giordano Bruno, or oh, look, I deleted one of my answers. Let's say Galileo.
Galileo. There's a gambit fallacy called the Galileo gambit fallacy because of that.
Yeah.
Well,
or
Bruno stated that the stars were also suns that had planets of their own, and that's what got him executed. Galileo was essentially he basically in the modern era, quote unquote modern era, is the one who basically made the central of our world. It's not the Earth. It's heliocentric instead of Earth-centric.
Right.
The first one you said in the first one was what?
Aristarchus. Aristarchus of Samos.
I have no idea who that is, and I feel that's a trick question, so I'm going to go with that one.
Because his name is Sam from Aristarchus. I mean, that's obvious. Like, you mixed it up there.
It was Aristarchus or Aristarchus or whatever the heck his name is. He was a Pythagorean, by the way. We were talking. So so like I was saying, Pythagoras first suggested that the Earth was in the middle, and Aristarchus tried to further that. But there was just so many sciences people didn't understand back then, like gravity and momentum. So the whole idea of the Earth revolving around the sun revolving around the Earth was just too far fetched back then. Because like, why don't we feel wind? Why don't we fall off? But he basically figured it out by looking at the shadow of the Earth on solar eclipses. And he realized that the shadow never comes onto the moon the same way. Actually, do you mind killing the music, Kevin?
Yes, I do, but you want to anyway.
I'm sorry, I'm not used to it. It's coming through. It's coming through so loud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but either way, So basically, he noticed that because during a lunar eclipse, whenever the shadow crossed the moon from different angles, it suggested that the Earth had to be, or the sun had to be much bigger than the Earth in order for that to happen. And like I said, he was right, but there was just so many other things that we didn't know at the time. It was the people basically stuck with the geocentric model, because also there was like philosophical reasons with like, why would the gods create all the stars that told us all this futuristic stuff or whatever, and not have us at the center of the universe? But either way, so
not arrogant at all. Why are we at the center of the universe? Jeez, don't we deserve it?
So the geometric model was first created by the geocentric model was first created by Exodus and inspired by the later works of Plato and Aristotle. It was later refined and established by Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In this model, celestial bodies rested on celestial spheres or orbs made of ether. So there was no such thing as orbits. There was just these giant sphere, like invisible spheres, that the stars or wandering or planets sat on, and then the spheres rotated and the planet stayed still. But
what happens when you're on the back of turtles and elephants?
Wait a second. What the invisible spheres were? What rotated?
Yes, and the spheres were made out of a magical substance called ether, or the 5th element.
It's the Infinity Stone. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one Thor was talking about. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
of course, so like when the planets went on, they couldn't explain that the planets went on retrograde, or sorry, when the planets were in retrograde. So they determined that there were spheres, or the planets on top of spheres on top of the spheres, and so the smaller spheres rotated while the big spheres rotated, and that explained the retrograde.
Oh. But because retrograde really is a mind bender when you don't know, when you don't have the
if you don't know where you're at and what you're looking at, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It looks like it's going backwards, but it's not. It's just our angle is it looks like it's going.
Brently, you should know by now that if Mercury's in retrograde and you're a Virgo, then you know what, you're fucked. You know, you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and talking donkeys too, man. I know. It's all great. It's all the same.
So the way these spheres moved allowed was like handled by the gods, and that's how and you could use that to predict the future, and that belief was held until like the 1600s. So, truth, myth, or boulder dash? Did people actually think that? Did scientists and stuff actually think that the stars could tell the future all the way up to the 1600s?
Oh God! You know what?
I would say, probably. We still do it today, man. I don't know.
Yeah, like what he said in there was scientist. If you said people,
true.
If you're saying scientists, but you know,
have you seen how elaborate astrology gets? They have charts, man. Like it gets crazy. Like how elaborate that shit is.
I will go with true as well.
Yeah,
that would be my guess.
Yeah, it is true. It's a regardless of religions, because like astrology was even like it kind of wasn't super popular by the church, but people in the general public and including scientists, whatever, believe that it would tell the future. Which leads us into the next question. Astrology and astronomy used to go hand in hand and was labeled the science of the stars. Even during the Renaissance, astronomers would write horoscopes and even write books on how to predict the future using the stars to help fund their studies.
Wow. Are you asking? That's it. That's
That's
a question. Okay.
How to use the stars to fund your studies? That sounds absolutely plausible to me. It's true.
It is true.
As recently as 1980s, Nancy Reagan was consulting astrologists to influence Ronald Reagan, Saint Reagan, to make decisions. How insane is this?
Clearly it worked because, the Reagan administration. So
that wasn't new because the kings and queens and stuff, they all had their private astrologers, and there was actually like laws that you can only do the king or queen's horoscope if you had special permission. Because if you could figure out when a king or queen died or what they were doing, well, you could like control the economy and wage wars and all the other stuff.
This is why we should stop doing astrology and bring back chicken entrails. Entrails at least was kind of interesting. At least you had a meal after that, right?
Right. I mean, wasn't that Rasputin's tactic? I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Okay, so although Copernicus was the first to rationalize a heliocentric model, he was hesitant to openly publish his works because he feared the scorn of popular culture, as astrology was deeply held belief back then. It wasn't until the Pope heard a lecture of Copernicus' work, and after the church began encouraging his research, that Copernicus was able to finish his research. He even dedicated his book on his findings to the Pope. Truth, myth, or boulder dash?
The Pope attending Copernicus' lecture? No, that doesn't sound right. Because if it was the Pope, he would have brought Copernicus to him. So I think that's boulder dash.
It is true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is true. Copernicus studied lots of things: religion, medicine, astrology, astronomy, and even translating ancient Greek texts. He didn't come up with the heliocentric model until on his own, rather from the works of the Pythagorean Aristarchus of Samos that I mentioned earlier. Copernicus used many of Aristarchus. I should have practiced pronouncing his name. Yeah, Copernicus used many of Hmmm's arguments while adding to his own works to legitimize the hypothesis. Copernicus' model wasn't fully functional and was filled with errors, but we all know that he was right. It wasn't until Galileo and Kepler came along and refined his model that the heliocentric model became irrefutable. So, next question. Due to growing concerns that the heliocentric model conflicted with biblical canon and man's role in the universe, the church flip-flopped and deemed the heliocentric model heresy. Galileo, refusing to adopt this position and proving this canon to be false, was punished by the Roman Catholic Inquisition and burned at the stake. Before dying, he renounced his claim and accepted the geocentric model and the Earth to be stationary. His last words, though, were, "And yet it moves."
If I remember correctly, Galileo was not burned at the stake. He did stay in prison for a long, long time, though. So I'm gonna say false.
Yeah, it is myth. I stuck a couple. I stuck a couple myths in there.
I'm doing pretty good today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There was a myth that circulated with a couple years after his death that he said, "And yet it moves," but that was proven to be false. And for quite a while, like a lot of people would say that Galileo was burned at the stake, but historically that wasn't true either. The church did burn Giordano Bruno, Giordano. Man, I'm horrible with names. The Bruno dude. Yeah, they burned him at the stake for suggesting that the universe extended beyond the ninth celestial sphere, thus refuting the existence of heaven's empyrean, which we'll get to in a little bit. But either way, Galileo definitely had a falling out with the church, though, and the church at the time was definitely against the heliocentric model. But all this, all they did was warn Galileo. They basically just warned Galileo to stop, more or less saying, nice life you got here. Shame something should happen to it, because they're Italian after all.
Here's a bonus question for you, Troy.
Uh-oh.
When was he forgiven by the church, and when did they admit he was right?
Oh, let me go on. I didn't record the date. I didn't write the date down, though, because
the year is fine. I mean, this might surprise you that the bastion of progressiveness, which is the Catholic Church, did not forgive Galileo till 1992.
Oh, I did read that. That's right. I did read that.
In 1992, they finally said, well, you know what, guys, Galileo turned out to be right.
Yeah.
After 350 fucking years, they finally admitted the guy was right.
Yeah.
Well, better late than never, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of messed up. But yeah, so even though Galileo was brilliant, he was also arrogant and rude. So when the church told him to back off, he kind of went full Karen on the church with several exchanges over the years, which eventually landed him into prison, and they were going to throw away the key. Under the threat of torture and spending the rest of his life in prison, Galileo recanted his findings and basically said, "Okay, the church is right." And then he died under house arrest in his villa. Mm-hmm. After Galileo recanted, though, the church widely publicized it, especially in scientific circles, claiming Galileo believed in the geocentric model all along, pretty much trying to make a scarecrow out of Galileo to scare the other scientists. But and then Kepler comes along, and it was he pretty much nailed it down to be irrefutable. Mm-hmm. So, lightning round.
Nope. All right.
Okay, so this is what Christians believed around the 14th century about our solar system, and they had different beliefs leading up.
So pretty much what Christians believe in Florida today, right? About the same thing.
Yeah. That's
you know what? I was surprised when I was looking at this, and I started coming around, coming across videos, and it's like there's people that still believe this crap. Oh, yeah. But this comes from Dante's Paradiso. Everybody's familiar with Dante's Inferno. Well, after Dante goes through hell, he takes a tour of heaven. And and then of course each heaven is made up of a celestial sphere. Mm-hmm. So celestial sphere number 1, the moon. And so let me know if you found this here or not. This is where the souls of animals go and explains why people behave so animalistic during full moons.
Oh, that sounds exactly what something like Dante would do. Oh yeah, I'll say yes.
That's where the word loony comes from.
I made that one up. That's Boulderdash.
No, good one,
yeah,
man.
Yeah. On the heaven of moon, or in moon heaven, is where you'll find the souls who broke their vows to God, but are still nice enough to get into heaven. So like priests that got kicked out of the church for
pedophilia.
Yeah, it's
that's not a big deal. They don't. That's fine.
Not according to church, apparently. Exactly. I mean, you raped a whole bunch of kids, but you're still a nice guy.
Yeah, but
Okay. Sphere number 2 is Mercury. It's where you find the pious celebrities because they symbolically got so close to the sun during their life, but pale in comparison to God.
Okay, sure.
That sounds good too. Yeah, I don't.
yeah, that one's true.
Oh, okay.
While on Mercury, Dante met famous figures like Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. Sphere number 3, Venus.
That's where the Kardashians go.
Yeah.
Mercury can have them. Sphere number 3 is Venus. Here you will find lovers who weren't Christian enough to get all the way to heaven. But so they only got partially there.
This is where you find horny people.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's called blue ball.
We're now changing Venus to planet blue ball.
Their own penis, but in the blue ball district.
Yeah.
That sounds plausible to me.
Yeah. I figured the whole lovers thing on Venus is pretty obvious. Number 4, the sun. Sphere number 4. This is where Dante saw the representation of the Holy Spirit as beams of light radiated onto the earth.
Well, so if he's sphere number 4 is the sun, so he's still thinking of the geocentric model because that's how they pictured it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that's false, actually.
Yeah, I made that one. I made that one up.
I was like, how would he see it on Earth if he was in heaven? In the sun.
Yeah.
This is where the Capricorn people go.
Yeah. Nope. This is where all the intellectual people go who helped illuminate the world.
Oh, there we go. The Illuminati.
Yeah. So not a lot of creationists in heaven number 4. Sphere number 5, Mars. This is where you'll find the warriors who died fighting for God.
And their eyes are like popping out of their head, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie. Where anyway.
You're going to find the Holy Spirit.
I don't know.
That sounds plausible to me, actually. Mars, the war planet, and all that. Yeah, that sounds very.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it is true, and just to know, like we're kind of picking up a real pagan influence.
Pagan vibe to this. Yeah,
Side note, which was really weird, is apparently the souls of these warriors formed a sparkling cross on its surface.
Yeah, if they combine together, they form Voltron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I remember the Inquirer saying they found Pee-wee Herman's face on the planet Mars, but I never no sparkling crosses.
It's a Megazord, and you guys know.
Yeah.
You're right. Power Rangers.
The Power Rangers. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Power Rangers.
Spear number 6. Because Jupiter was the king of a pagan god, this is where pagans who lived an honest life rested.
Oh, so how very unchristian of you to actually give something to pagans, Dante.
Yeah. Boulder Dash. I'm just gonna go Boulder Dash.
I don't know much about Dante as a person, but
I don't. Yes.
So I'm going to take a chance and say it was true as well.
No, it was Boulder Dash. Everyone knows pagans are going to burn in hell.
Yeah, I'll just piggybacking up here.
Yeah.
Everybody knows pagans are dying and burning.
Yeah. No, where Jupiter was the king of the pagan, the king of the gods, whatever. This is where earthly kings and stuff go to rest. Is on Jupiter.
It's a big
Spirit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spear number 7, Saturn. This is where missionaries are found. Symbolic sailors known as fishers of men.
Well, you know what? Saturn has always been referred to as the beautiful planet. So that would sound like something that.
That's where they kept telling Arnold. That's where they kept telling Arnold Schwarzenegger he needs to go because it's so pretty. But he went to Mars. And anyway, it's the whole thing. But,
I'll say that's true as well.
Yeah.
I made that one up.
Oh,
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. On Saturn, Dante meets up with church fathers and influencers. They sit around complaining about the non-canonical beliefs of the church and lament about how superficial and worldly the church has become. Prosperity preachers are like, hold my beer.
Joel Osteen drives his Corvette there. His Ferrari, whatever it is.
Sphere number 8, the stationary stars, is where all the people who talked to God live. Sorry.
That's it? Okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Is where all the people who talk to God live. Did I say it slower? No.
Yeah.
So from the other planet, nobody talks to God except if you're in the stationary stars?
Yeah, like
no. The stationary stars is where all the paperwork is done. Yeah, all the stationery, the pencil, the staplers. That's where it is. So I'll say no, Balderdash.
Yeah. That one's true.
No, damn it.
More precisely, the saints and other heroes in the Bible who God spoke to and spoke back.
It was also a very pagan idea that when you were heroic enough, the stars in the skies would align to your shape.
Yeah, that was
a very pagan belief.
Yeah, that was a Roman thing in Majigger.
Yeah.
Okay, but here Dante speaks with Saint Peter, who Dante asks how he knows the Bible is true. So here, the bonus question is: does anyone want to guess how Dante said? How Dante proved that he knew the Bible was true?
Oh, I can't wait for that answer.
It is.
It's in the Bible.
No.
Says so, man. Says right there. It's true.
Tell me if you heard this excuse before. Because the church grew from such humble beginnings, it must be true.
Oh, fuck.
What?
Yeah, meaning Christians have been using this excuse for at least 700 years.
At least, yes. It's not even a good excuse. Humble beginnings of Christianity.
Yeah.
Don't fact check that one.
So did Amazon. Amazon had it anyway, but who cares?
Amazon is true.
That's right. He's God.
Sphere number 9, the premium mobile, is where Dante found Jesus and Mohammed playing strip poker with dogs. I made that one easy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's false.
Yeah, it has.
You know what? I want it to be true. I want it to be true.
That would be cool.
Yeah, sorry, the Muslims only believed in 7 heavens, not 9. So
you can't have 9 heavens. I mean,
it's too many.
Got all the administrative work to do. So,
yeah. No, this is where all the angels hang out. It is also where the hand of God moves the outer sphere, which causes all the inner spheres to rotate, which is why everything in the sky moves.
You know, it's so funny. A sidebar on that. Yesterday, I saw this image. It's a light, right? And look, it's like wavy, so it kind of makes you feel that it's something from outer space. And then there's like a shadow of a hand that moves kind of across, and people are saying it's the hand of God trying to play with a star or trying to realign a star. But then you realize the light's got like little bars in it, like little shafts, and you realize, no, it's simply a light that's at the bottom of a pool that's reflecting in the water. There's a human hand walking across or something like that. The hand of God moving the stars out there. Come on.
That's awesome.
What's kind of neat, though, is Newtonian physics didn't explain all of the movements in the solar system.
Yeah.
And the excuse that Newton used was it was the hand of God. So it's like it was even in Newton's time. It was still like ingrained in the public ether.
Oh yeah,
pardon the pun. That the hand of God moved the stars.
Well, yeah, it's like those Chinese plates. God's got a whole bunch of sticks and he just spins the plates.
Yeah.
Oh, that was about to fall.
Yeah. So even though there's 9 spheres, there's actually 10 places plus 1, because the outer sphere is the Empyrean.
Spheres. No, that's the outer limit.
This is where the universe ends. The universe ends past the 9th sphere, and you get number 10. This is where God lives. Dante sees this represented by an enormous rose. Its petals are the divine souls of true Christians who get to live next to God, praising him, and angels flew around this giant rose like bees.
No, that's where he who remains.
Don's like, this can't be true.
What's that buzzing sound? All the angels are pollinating God's rose all the time.
I'm no good at this game, but I'm pretty sure that's false.
It is true.
Oh,
Jeez,
no.
Yeah, Dante, while there also comes face to face with God, God appears as 3 equal large circles occupying the same space, and in the middle of these circles, Jesus. Dante doesn't understand what he sees. Jesus tries to explain it to him. Then through osmosis, Dante understands this, and his soul aligns with God's love. The end. But yeah, so that was like the mythology around our solar system back in the up until the oh crap, what did I say? The 14th century?
14th century, yeah, 14th century.
Yeah.
Well, you forgot planet Xenu, planet X. You forgot that one.
Yes,
Conspiracy theories are bound to happen on that one.
It's a giant lizard with a volcano mouth.
Yeah.
That's where the devil is.
I feel like that's
actually there was a planet Vulcan. They used to think there was a planet Vulcan just because our Newtonian physics was flawed, right? So just the way, I think it was because of the way that Venus wobbled. They thought there was like another planet along with Mercury between us and the sun, and that was named Planet Vulcan. And they used to think that was out there for the longest time. And of course, there's Planet X or whatever.
But then the Romulans came and destroyed it.
Yeah,
I'd say that's where vulcanized rubber comes from, and that's Spock's birth control. You know. So.
That's highly illogical.
Peace be unto you, Leonard Nimoy. All right, guys. Thank you so much for that. Brently, you got another brilliant moment for us, my friend. No, we're laughing enough as it is, right?
I know, right? Yeah, turns out here in Florida, everybody's lost their goddamn minds. Again, they're more or harder, just harder. We'll just say they're lost their minds harder.
It's Florida man does something already, right? This is what you're going to come up with. This must be very easy for you to research these things. Seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, they're right down the street. So it's happening all around me. Florida principal resigns after parents decry Michelangelo's David as pornography.
No.
This poor principal, Hope Carasquilla, resigned on Monday as principal of the Tallahassee Classical School after the campus's governing board told her to either step down or be fired over parental complaints that came in after sixth grade students were shown the 16th century sculpture, one of the Renaissance's most famous pieces of art. Yeah, and because they have this thing going on down here, but we're basically you're not they've enshrined it in law that you're not allowed to offend bigots when it comes to how school is taught, right?
Okay, see, so, I thought DeSantis just made so much stuff illegal they ran out of things to complain about. So
no, he basically just let it open, right? So if any bigot parent decides to complain, they have to shut down or they have to have consequences, right? That's of anything. But I mean, if there's any queer person,
everything.
I say all the atheists in Florida should rally together and complain about all the pictures of Jesus wearing a dress.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You can totally complain about all the violence in the Bible that's being taught to kids. You can totally do that.
But they won't listen to that. That's the crazy thing. It's very much set up to only help the conservative, to only back up the conservatives, and because you can offend, if you're a queer person who or a member of the queer community that wants like the Stonewall riots taught in school, you can go fuck yourself, fuck off, But if you're a parent that, I don't even know if like the next step is like we got to get rid of all the fucking globes. Because some flat earther parents like, well, hey, what are you teaching my kid this propaganda? That's like where we're at as far as how stupid things have gotten down here.
This is so stupid that at some point this was actually predicted as a joke by The Simpsons. Again. And
right.
When I remember seeing that freaking cartoon a long time ago, and I thought, oh, this is funny. It was a comment on American prudishness, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, and and that was like 20 years ago, and then here it's actually happening.
Here we are.
Because look, it's the problem with this is that they are a minority. These crazy conservative Republican Christian people are a minority. They're not they're not everybody, you know what I mean? They act like they're the majority, right? So that's why they have to put shit in law. They get all mad that, we have what we would call cancel culture, which is really just an audience reaction to shit, right? It's the audience going, oh man, that's fucking bullshit. And they're all putting it on Twitter and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, how dare all these people have the same opinion about the thing that, they don't want me to say. But then they go and they put it into fucking law and say that you have to not offend me, otherwise your school gets shut down. And unfortunately, people, I think this is like the third or fourth member of the school board that works for the school board that's been fired for shit like this or has to step down. It's gotten fucking crazy.
This is going to be a problem. It's going to become a problem down the road because they're not going to find anybody to teach the kids. One, nobody's going to want to become a teacher in those areas.
Well, what are they going to teach
the goal.
them? I mean, they're going to be running out of topics other than straight from the Bible,
Yeah, and this goes exactly to what we were talking about a couple of shows ago. We were talking about Christian Project Blitz and Christian dominionism. We live in a global economy. If you're dumbing down the population to the point they can't learn anything normal, these kids are not going to be able to compete in the real world eventually. And you might be capable to compete against other kids in Florida, but what about the kids outside Florida? What about the kids outside the U.S.? What about
That's the goal, though, right? Because education is a problem for conservatism. Like it just is. Like that, education is just something. What they want to only have their kids get good education, while the public, like their tax dollars, go to not helping poor kids learn things. Right? That's what they want. They want private college, private schools and stuff to be the only schools. That's really their end goal. They won't ever tell you that. They won't ever say that, but that's really what they want. Yeah. They don't want their tax dollars going to educate kids that they don't. It definitely
has a vibe that they want like an authoritarian class system, where you have absolutely. Like the white cis males, whatever, in charge. They can do whatever the heck they want, and the rest of the population is just poorly educated. Unable to understand their rights, unable to think for themselves, and and then voila, we're back to the Middle Ages with back to the Dark Ages, where you have like super rich people and super people.
Yeah,
I can't. I just don't understand people that are like not like the rich, wealthy, upper class, sitting here going, the Dark Ages actually that could be cool. That could be cool, right? We need to go back to the family. Family mattered more back then. So
you don't word it that way. You word it as Satan is coming, and Satan is coming for your soul.
But that's the weird part. The weird part of it too. It's Michelangelo's David, a Bible character, right there. I mean, it's not Rick and Morty's statue. It's Michelangelo's David.
So I said, their logic eats itself constantly. They're constantly running into their own thinking.
I can't wait till they start censoring the 16th chapel.
Yeah, exactly.
God's wearing a dress. This is insane. No,
are they going to stop the kids from going to the Vatican because they don't want to see all the naked bodies on top of the Sistine Chapel? Are they going to stop doing that too? We're not going to go to Notre Dame. I mean, this is offensive. There could be a hunchback in here somewhere.
It's just like, because the weird thing about it is, because you heard what they said. They called it pornography, right? So it goes to show that. And this relates to a lot of the fact that like they can't seem to be able to separate the sexuality from like drag shows and stuff like that. They can't seem to understand that you can do drag shows without it being sexual at all, really, because they just anything that has anything to do with the human body, sexual. It's all sex. Everything's sexual. Like, dude. Yeah, they're obsessed with fucking sex. Like, and it's like, dude, this is nothing to do with sex. This is just the body, like the thing that we all fucking have, man. Like,
it's also the natural consequence of being in a faith that represses sexuality to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? If you keep repressing that kind of stuff, you eventually, you binge, you leach out, and this is what we're seeing. We're seeing people that essentially they're just horny for everything. They see sex everywhere because their faith tells them to
hide it. Yeah, because it's a natural function. This is what's so messed up, because it's a natural function of just humanity to be like wanting to procreate, right? And so you have natural feelings of like wanting to procreate, and they're like, no, it's wrong, evil, bad.
So I guess the question is Michelangelo's David a masterpiece or just a guy with his pants down? You decide.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, it looks like he's just a white guy with his pants down. A very white guy, I would say.
Now, in their defense, if I can do a history lesson, is the Michelangelo and other sculptors at the time, they sculpted it that way to imitate the Roman gecko art.
Yep.
Which was like all white. But the thing is the Romans didn't make it that way. The paint just wore off. Yeah. So even though all these like white sculptures inspired an entire art movement, the Romans would actually paint up the sculptures and put clothes on them. So
the material itself, it's white marble, right?
No, they would actually put actual clothing like silk and other stuff. Very very rare you'll actually see like sculptures with actual clothing on it. They would just like clothe the statue afterwards.
Is that why their eyes look so fucking weird? Because they actually had them drawn on there? Because I swear to God, they look like zombies. They have these white fucking eyes that just look creepy as hell. I hate that shit. Like,
they would have been painted on too.
I don't know. Like, do something. Jeez.
It's astonishing that we're in 2023. And Michelangelo's, I mean, it is a masterpiece. I mean, it's a wonderful sculpture. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's absolutely it's a stunning piece. It's a big piece too. It's not a small piece. It's a big piece. And I was watching. There was this picture of these Italian nuns when the statue was in Italy taking a group selfie in front of Michelangelo.
Yeah,
and they kind of pointed the camera up.
Yeah. Nice. Look, here's us in front of pornography. What's up?
Yeah. I want to see a photo of a bunch of rabbis in front of Michelangelo's David with a little circumcision tool, a little bit off the tip.
And, if you're in Florida and you realize that your state and the local average person is becoming more prudish than nuns,
something's wrong. Something's not working
wrong here. Something's very, very wrong.
Yeah. And I think we're gonna start to see like further down the line, we're gonna start to see some serious consequences from this type of shit. Because if people don't have access to good information and good education, crime goes up because desperation goes up. You don't know how to take care of yourself. You're gonna be more desperate. You're gonna have more crime. That's just the nature of poverty, and that's what they're trying to push. Is poverty.
That just like gives an excuse for more authoritarianism, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're right. That furthers their goal. Yeah. So
soon we'll be talking about the vicious regime of the Florida state, the rogue state of Florida.
I mean, we practically are. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm just like, what the?
You sure you don't want to move up here to Canada, Brently? I mean, your door is open.
I refuse to bend to these fuckers.
Well, I
will stay and fight. God damn it!
Yeah. I saw one reporting coming out of Florida where DeSantis sends his like private police officers or undercover police officers to a theater to watch a drag show to basically catch in the act of lewd behavior. Couldn't find anything except for guys wearing girls' clothes or vice versa, and reports that to DeSantis, and DeSantis is like, take their liquor license away anyways.
Yeah.
And it's just a case where it's like, even when you don't get the information that he wants, he still punishes people because he was planning on punishing them no matter what anyways. And like, that's not how leadership is supposed to work. That's not a democracy you guys got down there.
No, this is what happened when you rule by ideology instead of ruling by proper facts and scientific and all that stuff.
Right, because could you imagine if we made a bill? Right, because imagine because they do, they're very much targeting like trans folks and stuff too. Like, so they're saying like there's several states that have like laws where you can't get medical care that is trans affirming, right? And it's like could you imagine if we did that? Like, we don't get Christian affirming healthcare. Like, you don't get to no, you can't have Christian affirming healthcare. You're not allowed to have anybody. You can't be a Christian publicly and get healthcare. Christian they would fucking lose their mind.
Well, Christian affirming healthcare is going to church and asking for a miracle. That's true.
I'm just thinking it's like Christian. If we had
targeting them with the law,
if we had Christian healthcare, there'd be no hospital waits.
No,
you would just have a doctor coming by, healed. It's
a line in the door, line out the door. Yep, just like walking right in, right out. Yep.
Thank you so much, Brently, for that. All right, let's take a quick pause, guys, and when we come back, we'll be with Ethan Siegel, and we'll be talking about all things not astronomy, not astrology, astronomy.
Astronomy.
Yeah, because we don't want to talk about astrology to Ethan Siegel. He might just kick us out. All right, we'll be right.
Where is the hand of God moving the stars? And have they found the ether yet?
It's a bigly red sludge. All right, our next guest is probably one of my favorite astrophysicists and probably the guy with the best facial hair this side of the Riviera. He's a snappy dresser and a sassy dancer. Ethan Siegel, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
My pleasure. I don't know that much about the dancing, but everything else, I'll take it.
I'll give you applause or snaps. Snaps is applause.
Beautiful.
Ethan, it's been a while, my friend. It's been too long, obviously.
It's always great to come back and see you again, Kevin. Thanks for having me back on Left at the Valley.
Oh, you don't have to lie. I'll send you your money as we agreed. For people that may have missed you the first time around, maybe you'll be so kind to give us a quick bio as to who Ethan Siegel is.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a theoretical astrophysicist. Oh my God, I've been doing this for more than 20 years now. Wow. So I had a career as a researcher, as a professor, which I left full-time to do science communication under the banner Starts with a Bang. I've written a couple books, Treknology, The Science of Star Trek, From Tricorders to Warp Drive, and Beyond the Galaxy, How Humanity Looked Beyond the Milky Way and Discovered the Entire Universe. And I have 2 new books coming out hopefully later this year. One is called the Encyclopedia Cosmologica, where it's a illustrated history of the universe, where every time you turn the page, you start before the Big Bang and come forward 100 million years until you get to the present day. I'm doing the writing.
and-
John Lomberg and Mark Garlick are doing the space art, and Will Lidwell is doing the design. And I think this is like the dream team for that project. And I'm also co-writing a children's book called The Littlest Girl Goes Inside an Atom, with Dr. Laura Manenti, who's a particle physicist, and we got a glorious illustrator. I've seen the proofs, and I'm really excited for it. So hopefully both of those will be out later this year.
Oh my God, you
but
have to send those
I
to
get
me?
excited to share the story of the universe, what we know, how we know it, to anyone who's willing to listen. So thanks for having me on and giving me the chance to share it with your listeners.
So now you'll have to come back when these books are out, because we'll have to help you promote your books for sure. So you'll,
Because I have nieces and nephews that I need to give these books to, and I'd be like, here, educate my children. I'm so excited, and the fact that you mentioned Star Trek, like my fangirl in me got so excited. So
yeah,
for sure.
There you go.
We're all a bit nerd on that. And you know what, Ethan, I gotta say, you're one of my favorite science communicators. I think there's not enough of you guys out there, and I know this is a tough job to try to communicate to us dumbasses in the population. I'll speak for myself, because I know I'm a dumbass. At least I know I'll give you a chance. But I got to give kudos to you and all the people out there. What is Carousel, Santa Maria, and all these people out there? They're trying to communicate science to the average population. There, it's a tough job, and you guys have your work cut out for you guys, especially these days.
Well, I think it's extremely important to sort of recognize that we all want to know, right? There's stuff out there that we all want to know, that we're all just curious about. What's it like? And some of these things at the frontiers of knowledge, if you want to know them, you have to study and study and study all of these years to understand the background, the foundation to get up to the frontier. And then I feel like when you get there, at least someone in that community has that responsibility. Hey, you need to pick this up and let everybody out there know this is why we do it. This is what's really happening. This is what it really means. Don't fall for this hype. Don't listen to that noise. Here's the real science behind what's going on, where we really are, and what everyone should know. And that's, this is a tall order to take on. I try my best to keep up with all the current research on all the different frontiers that are going on. I was trained as a theoretical cosmologist, and I'm, looking at observational astronomy graphs and, looking at, okay, I'm looking through the geophysics archives to see what planetary histories are like. And I'm looking at all of these different branches of science, because there's a whole interconnected story to tell out there about this universe. And when I say to tell, I mean, this is the story the universe tells us about itself and its different components when we ask it the right scientific questions.
Yes, indeed. And one of the reasons I wanted you on the show today is because I'm seeing way too much of science bashing in popular media, and I'm seeing way too much of people taking a bit of scientific hypothesis or something that we're looking at and just cranking it up to 11 in the ridicule. And it really, really bothers me. And especially since this is an atheist show and we always have an atheism flavor to our show, it always goes back to religious attacks on science. And one of the biggest things that people, you're a cosmologist, you study all this stuff. And, first of all, I got to ask, what's your reaction to all these people that they're just trying to take cosmology down, essentially, just trying to, deny that all the stuff is actually happening out there, because you guys have your thumb on on the pulse of the universe in a way.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of people who want attention for one reason or another. They have an audience that wants things to be a certain way, or they want an audience to see things a certain way. And I think that gets to be a problem in two ways. One, when you have to shut off your eyes to reality, when you can't look at reality because the truth of reality is too blinding. So you just don't even recognize or, you know, the things that the people who know what they're talking about have sort of like, hey, like we can show you that the earth is round, that we've landed on the moon, that, you know, we can show you all of these things. We have the overwhelming evidence for it. Like you have people like, I don't think we ever went to the moon. And you have people like, dude, my job at NASA is to bounce lasers off of the reflectors that the Apollo astronauts put on the moon. Do you think I would have a job at NASA bouncing lasers off of the moon if we didn't go up there and this was all a hoax for 60 years now? We've been hoaxing ourselves with the fake landing on the moon, and I have a fake job bouncing a laser off the moon, and we're lying when we tell you how far away the moon is right now.
Ethan, you haven't spent time at Flat Earthers like I have. It is. There's a lot of mental gymnastics going on that it would frustrate you to no end. And I'm a layman, and I can see all the flaws in the fucking bullshit that they try to perpetuate.
I will just tell you that you cannot reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it's like, if you can't agree on these are the facts, like if you don't agree that this is a fact, then we can't have a conversation, because the key to science is embracing empirical reality. Yeah. And if that empirical reality is not accepted by you, like, okay, but like you are off in imagination land, and if you're interested in talking about the real world, we can do that. But the world you're talking about is not that. It's like imagining a world where gravity wasn't the same force over time, where it just like turned on and turned off and got negative. And yeah, you can imagine that. What a cool universe. But that's clearly not the one we live in right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys have a tall order. I mean, I was seeing a video today. I looked at this video today, and this is what you guys are up against. There's this pastor that basically says, no, of course we never went on the moon, because what actually happened, according to him, is Satan inflated himself to look like the moon, and we landed on Satan instead. Apparently,
you are not serious.
No, this is actually out there. This is a level of nonsense that is out there.
Okay,
you know this. I almost wish, when I hear stories like that, I almost wish that Neil Armstrong had listened to Michael Collins, because while they were on the way to the moon, allegedly, Michael Collins, the command module pilot, the one who was going around the moon while Neil and Buzz landed on it, he said to Neil, hey, your first words when you land on the moon's surface should be, hey, what's that? Oh, God, no!
That would have been amazing.
And my joke is that's why they flew him around the moon and didn't let him walk on it.
Yeah. That would have been me. That's what.
So, like, do you find that the fact that, you know, you actually know the science, you've done the research, you know, done the math, you've done all the things, that when you see these charlatans, these people that don't understand, they really do not understand the science, and they're not willing to trust the people that have done the work. When you see people peddling things that don't give a real objective view of reality, do you find yourself like, you know, you are a bald man, and I love my bald man. I am married to one, but like wanting to pull your hair out going, you do not understand what we're trying to communicate and educate to people.
You know, I feel like there's a strategy to that, right? That when something is hard to accept, right, or hard to reckon with or cope with, simple, easy answer is often easier to accept, right? So if you say, oh, it's hard to think about being on a planet that's just one of a bunch of planets that orbit this star, that's one of hundreds of billions of stars, that's an unremarkable one of the hundreds of billions of stars in one galaxy out of several trillions. in just the observable part of the universe, that's 10 to the 20 times as big as the distance between the Earth and the sun, and 100 million, more than 100 million times as old as any human has ever lived. No, thank you. Like, just God made it for me. That's fine. That's better. Or whatever it is. Like, I understand that that's a tall order for people to take on, especially when it's something that's part of their community, especially when it's something that there's a ton of social capital involved in where they live, where they don't feel like they have other options, where they're going to be ostracized, where they're going to be treated poorly. And all I can say to someone who feels that way, who feels like, no, I do want to learn this stuff. I do want to learn what the universe says about itself. And I want to learn that story. You should know that it's a big world out there, and you should not feel like, if you're in a community where you feel you aren't able to grow to your full potential, both intellectually and as a person, you should be aware that there are lots of people out there in the world who want you to be exactly who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, let's do a bit of role playing here, just for fun. Sure. Right? I'm going to play the role of the theist believer here, and you tell me how you would approach this, because it's very easy. So, question one: what are you wearing, Ethan?
Different podcast now.
Question one, Ethan. I mean, come on, it's obvious it's design. I mean, we're not too far from the sun, not too close to the sun. We're on the only planet that supports life. And, it's kind of funny that the moon, when it has a solar eclipse, it's the same size as the sun. It's not smaller or bigger. This is it's too much to be just coincidence.
Well, you can say that it's too much to be coincidence. But is it? How much is too much? What makes you say it's too much? Like, I could say, for example, I could ask you, man, I feel like I have to go to the doctor too much. But is that really the truth? Am I going to the doctor too much, or am I not going to the doctor enough? Like, what's the actual problem? So when you say it seems too perfect, well, how perfect is it? Because if you tell me, like, oh, it's a 1 in a million chance, but I tell you, oh, but we get 10 to the 18 chances, then there's a trillion other things just like us out there. So how just perfect is it, and how did you figure that out?
Okay, good answer. I mean, yeah, we live on a planet. It's like, I mean, we live on Earth. It's just like perfectly designed for us. Can't you just tell? It's just like we're not living on Mars. We're not living on Pluto. We're living like.
Well, that's like saying, if I stick my hand into wax and I pull my hand out, and then when the wax cools, I take my hand out of there. How did the wax know to just perfectly fit my hand like that? Right?
That's the
If all you found was the wax imprint of my hand in the middle of nowhere, you would be like, wow, what a miracle that this exists. But if you're someone who knows about what liquids and solids do, and you know about the properties of wax, it's not very mysterious.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, Ethan. I mean, if we change gravity by just, you put just a bit more gravity or a bit less gravity, life as we know it can't exist. So what do you say to that? It had to be designed.
Well, are you sure about that? Are you sure that there isn't life out there on planets that don't have half of Earth's gravity or twice Earth's gravity? Okay. Are you sure? I'm not sure. Planetary scientists who study planets and life on them possibly aren't sure. I don't know why you'd be sure.
Well, isn't there life on even on our own planet that defies certain variables that we're saying that should?
Well, a lot of people think that life couldn't exist if it didn't have the hospitable conditions that we have on Earth. But I think you're right to bring up what we call extremophile organisms. There's a species of snail that has a shell made of iron that lives successfully inside of active volcanoes.
Right. That's
it can withstand temperatures of up to like, I think 700 degrees.
Well, that's I'm French. I'll eat a very hot, spicy escargot, I guess.
Listen, I'm French too, and I've eaten
let it cool, Kevin.
Escargot.
Let it cool. Do not put at 700 degrees. It does not look hot, but it is hot. Do not put directly in your mouth.
So when you even show examples like the one that you just said about the snail that can survive in volcanoes. When you present that to people that have this belief that like, well, we're super special and we got this planet and God created it for us and blah, 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 blah. Like, how do you get someone to kind of shift their perspective going, well, you're saying that this environment is perfect for us, but we have data that shows that we have organisms that might possibly survive in very extreme conditions that us as normal, a million
I would tell
species that would not be able to survive in.
We know enough about, astronomy to know how old stars are.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that our sun is 4.5 billion years old from astronomy. We know how old rocks are from radioactive dating. So we know that the material in our asteroids and our Kuiper Belt objects, we know that that's a few tens of million years older than the sun. We know how old the Earth and Moon are, and we know that they're about 50 million years younger than the sun. And so when you start talking about like, well, I think the Earth is 6,000 years old, I say like, but we have all of these physical sciences that are very well known, and you can learn them yourself. And you can learn how we know how old this rock is, how old this material is. Venus, for example, its surface is not 4.5 billion years old. We can look at the craters on its surface and know that it has had some type of volcanic resurfacing activity pretty recently. I think if you go back 1.2 billion years, almost none of Venus's surface from before that time exists. But not on Earth, but not on Mercury, but not on the Moon, because we know how that geology works. The youngest world surface in our solar system is Io. That's Jupiter's innermost big moon. It resurfaces itself about every 10,000 years or so. I think it has 2 active volcanoes on it right now. And, maybe a few generations from now, it'll have different volcanoes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had no idea that Venus was recently, as you say, a couple billion years ago. That's very recent.
I didn't know that about Venus, but I did know the thing about Io.
Yeah.
I probably watched PBS Space Time and like got a factoid embedded into my brain.
But I think that's great too, because there should be more videos out there from people who are science literate and science knowledgeable, who want other people to understand that miracle of what we know and how we know it, who want to know, like, what are these facts that are out there? Like, yeah, maybe there is a snail that lives in that volcano. Like, wow, maybe there are those weird organisms 7 miles down in the ocean that live around that little hydrothermal vent. Oh man, maybe there are, like, come find out. come find out. This is the frontiers of what we know and what we're learning, and we should figure it out and share that with people. There's a beautiful world that, you know, we're all a part of, that we came from, that we'll return to, and that you know, hopefully, I like most of the people out there. I want them to have good things and things to appreciate about this world. And I want all the people who come after me to have this world in good shape so they can appreciate and enjoy it too.
You know, you pointed out there that, you know, like you said, we come from it and we'll return from it, which is kind of reminiscent to a Bible passage. Do you think it's the psychology of not being able to see the world without you in it that prompts a lot of people to not take science seriously and take religion more seriously?
You know, I don't know that it needs to be a dichotomy. You know, I know a lot of people with widely different beliefs on religion, who do a good job with science, who enjoy science. I know religious Christians, religious Jews, religious Muslims, religious Hindus, religious Buddhists, yes, even some religious Buddhists who take it very seriously, who are all very good scientists, very respectable scientists who contribute to our body of knowledge and who embrace the very real picture of reality. I think the reason people turn away from science is when it tells them something they don't want to hear. Is when they hear something that they're like, oh, like, no, like, because I've seen people do it. If you believe something and I tell you that's not true, your default response is never going to be, why don't you think that is true? Your default response is going to be, yes, it is, dumbass. And you're going to want to take anything they say that disagrees with your point of view or runs into conflict with your point of view, and you're going to want to try and find some way to undermine it. And you're going to do this subconsciously, like even people who know about this bias fall prey to it because we have to. And sometimes we're wrong about that, and we have to be willing to learn. For me, I think the biggest trait that determines whether someone gets sucked in by what I'll just call as an intellectual scam artist or an intellectual con artist, I think that happens if they feel the worst thing in the world they can say is, I was wrong. If that is like the end of the world for you, like, oh man, if I have to say I was wrong, like I can't do it. Like, I think people who have that fear, who have that aversion, who's like, oh man, I was wrong about the climate. Oh man, I was wrong about the oil. Oh man, I was wrong about the vaccines and autism. Oh man, I was wrong about the water fluoridation. Oh man, I was wrong about the, you know, I don't see a lot of people who do that, but the few people I see who had that epiphany, they want to rescue others from it.
That's what I do.
They feel like, you know, oh no, like this held me in, like, I didn't even realize what a mental prison it was while I was in it. And now that I'm not in it, I feel like I want to be like, you know, my own version of the, hey, let's get all of you out. I want to be my own Oscar Schindler, Harriet Tubman of whatever movement got me. Like, get them out.
That's what it is, though. It is literally that, because like Kevin and I have talked about this. Like, I am an ambassador for recovering from religion. The reason why I am is because I was in that prism of belief. I did it through a paganism lens, but I had people believe in and I was a leader within that community where I had people believe in a lot of bullshit, where I believed in like Reiki and energy and psychic shit, and that rocks can heal you, and like all these really bad ideas. And when you get out of it, you're just like, oh fuck, I taught people bad ideas, and I did. And when you get out of it and you see the reality of the word, which has so much wonder and gloriousness like reality has a lot of glory and wonder and feelings of like, oh my God, like I'm an infinitesimal speck in the reality universe and I get to experience in it. That's a great thing to accept. And it can be spiritual in the word that we want to use it, but like psychologically, it's like I get to have this life and I'm grateful for it. And
I think appreciating what you have and where you are today is a great thing for everyone to strive to like achieve in their mind. Because, there are a lot of good things to being alive, to existing, to getting to experience another day in this world. And, I think recognizing that we all have that and we all have the power to use ourselves today to make a better tomorrow. That's a very powerful thing to realize. And if you can look at your own behavior over your lifetime, where you can look at yourself however many years ago, when you were 18, 21, 25 up until today, and you're like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to be that person I was back then forever. Thank goodness I don't think those things I thought that led me to treat people poorly, that made me be unkind in situations where I was selfish, where I treated others poorly. Like, yeah, we all did that. Being able to recognize that you did that it was wrong, and that you can not only atone for that, but in some cases repair that damage that you did and make good things instead. I think that's how you move forward as a person and as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan, do you think that, one of the reasons why people are having a hard time with understanding science, especially cosmology, is, let's face it, we have primitive mammalian brains. We're much more adept to try to find a predator in the field, and we're more, and finding patterns like that. So when you come up with the idea of light years and billions of years, it stretches the mind. It's very, very hard to wrap your mind around that. You think that's one of the reasons why people just...
It is pretty hard. I like thinking about, in my mind, I can picture the Earth spinning on its axis, or I could picture the Earth orbiting around the sun, or I could picture the sun orbiting around the Milky Way. Mm-hmm. And just in my own imagination, think about that. The Earth spins on its axis once a day. I can picture that, no problem. Even though we're only doing it in like a second or two, I can picture a day without a problem. Or I can picture the Earth moving around the sun, no problem. That's a year, no problem. Or I can picture the sun going around the Milky Way. It's 225 million years right there. When you start thinking like that, you realize, like, okay, the time I experience is finite. And I only get to see the sun move this this like less than a millionth, one millionth of its way around the galaxy in my lifetime. In my whole lifetime, it moves less than one millionth of the way around the galaxy. But I can picture things happening on timescales much longer than I'll ever live in my imagination. And I think that's an amazing thing to recognize from our perspective here on Earth, on this one planet where we're just like 1 to 2 meters tall. We can understand things happening on the scales of light years, or thousands or millions or even billions of light years, that we can perceive and comprehend that. Yeah, it's difficult because it's not in your common experience. But if you wanted to make it part of your common experience, you would think about it all the time, and you would study it, and you would simulate it, and you would gain an intuition for it. And it's just like anything else. Like, I don't have the intuition of an auto mechanic because I haven't spent my time doing auto mechanic stuff. Right. But I'm starting to develop the intuition of a blacksmith because I've started blacksmithing, and I'm starting to understand, when I make it like this, the steel responds like that. And if the steel responds like that, then I'll do this. And it sort of gets into that. But astrophysics I've been doing for decades now. And this is something that it's very easy for me to intuit. That's why I feel like I have a responsibility to try and make it make sense to others. I joke around that I tell people my job is to translate from physics into English.
That's a good job.
Yeah, that is a good job. Like, and I think it's also true too, like when you start to dive into these certain subjects and you're looking at the possibilities of how humans, how we're our place in the universe and how that's going to look like in the future. Will we all suffer heat death? Probably. Like we won't be around. Well, we won't be around to experience that because we'll probably kill ourselves off before that happens.
Are you asking me to prognosticate the future of humanity? Because, you know, if you've got an astrophysicist, why not ask him to be a psychic?
Are we going to do it all tomorrow's kind of conversation, or what do you think the progress of humanity is going to look like?
You know, it's really tough to say because we all know how fragile life on Earth is, right? You can imagine a whole lot of different things. You can imagine that we, you know, that someone pushes the big red button this week and that we're all gone come next week because we eradicated ourselves in a nuclear war. I feel like with the nuclear arsenal we have on our planet, we all know that's been a possibility since pretty much the 50s and 60s. Yeah. That firepower exists. It's here on Earth. And if someone pushes that button, we're all gone. And that's it. But, you know, it's also possible that we will kill ourselves more slowly, that we will kill ourselves by, you know,
destroying the planet.
By having, say, we'll deforest too much of the land, we'll kill too many of the wild places, and then we'll just have ecosystem collapse. And that will, you know, that won't kill all of us, but it'll certainly bring down human civilization. And, you know, maybe humanity will peter out after that. Maybe we'll linger on for a while. Maybe we'll return to being hunter-gatherers. Maybe we'll evolve into something else. But it's also possible that, yeah, we have problems today, some short-term and some long-term. And I think the most likely thing is we're going to figure them all out eventually, probably too slowly, which means that we're going to have to adapt to the changes down the generations rather than being able to mitigate the worst of those changes. So I think there is likely to be a lot of battles over resources, a lot of struggle and a lot of suffering for a lot of people. I think there's probably going to be some ecosystem collapse, and I think there's going to be a lot of global warming. I think the Earth will look very different 1,000 years from now than it looks today. But I don't think that's going to do humanity in. I think that my generation, people in their 40s and 50s today, we know that, yeah, this is the time we're looking at where we know we're doing it wrong. And we've been trying to put the brakes on the wrongdoings since we were teenagers, since we were in our 20s, and we haven't been able to do it. But people younger than us, people in their 20s and 30s are looking at this now and they're like, no, everyone who's been trying to pull it back, let's pull it back. We've got to fix this things. And I think the younger people, the people who are, you know, teenagers now, who are young people coming into the world now, they recognize it even more strongly. And this is a problem because we're a big species. We're spread all over the planet, and we've been this way for thousands of years. We have a culture that's very entrenched worldwide, where we do things slowly, and we don't have that luxury anymore. We need to make big changes fast. We're not going to make them fast. We will make the big changes, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't make them as fast as you can, right? It's like, oh no, he's bleeding out. Oh, well, I put a Band-Aid on his thumb. It's like, okay, but he's still bleeding out. Okay, well, I put a bigger Band-Aid on his knee. It's like, okay, but like that big abdominal wound, like you should really, well, look, sew it up as soon as you can get to it. right? There's going to be a big difference if we, for example, adequately address climate change in 50 years. I know everyone's saying that's too late. It probably is too late for what they're talking about, but it's better if we do it in 50 years than in 100 years or 150 years or 350 years. No, like, we know we have this problem. We know what makes it worse. We know we're making it worse. But that's true for a whole lot of problems. You know, you have people who are so afraid that, you know, oh, someone masterminded this pandemic we all lived through. Someone made a bioweapon doing reckless research and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but that's like saying the Easter Bunny made a black hole and that made a coronavirus. Like, you don't understand what you're even talking about. You're throwing around words like gain of function and spike protein and ACE2, and it's just word salad in your dumb, uneducated brain. And I don't blame you, because you've been misinformed, and the correct information is hard to get, first of all, and is hard to discern if you yourself are not an expert. And this is a problem, that we have non-experts flooding all of the media with noise. And it's not like, oh, well, I go to the New York Times. I don't know. You get the noise in the New York Times. You get the noise in the Wall Street Journal. You get the noise all over the place. It's not enough to ask, what does this prominent person think? My least favorite news headline of all time is A says B when B is not true and A is some authority figure. That's my least favorite news headline of all time. And that's most of what the news is.
And that's where I, like, you know, your first research on that. Like, when I see psychological studies and they say like A equals B, and I'm always like, does it? Because even experts in the psychological field saying like there's a lot of nuance that's involved in the field. And they even say like, we don't know. This is what the evidence is showing. But this will change because the human brain is fucking complicated.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, you had people drawing insane conclusions from fMRI studies about all human brains. And these are a few studies that got oversold. And then people had a backlash to that, and they were like, all fMRI science is garbage. And then you have legitimate fMRI scientists who are like, no, it's not all garbage. Like, look at all these things we see when we look at the same human brain over time. Like, we can do this for an individual brain. fMRI is really useful for studying one individual. It's a lot less useful for saying all humans work like this. That is not how it works. You can't hook someone up to an fMRI machine and have 100 people come in and say, who loves the most? No, that's not what you can do with fMRI. And if you saw the study on TV that showed that, like, I'm sorry, you got hoodwinked by bad journalism and bad science put together. But what's new? This has been going on for as long as there's been science and journalism. Shysters, hucksters, people looking to make a buck and take advantage of others and deceive others for their own personal gain. And people are a lot better at that. People are good at that, you know.
Wait a minute.
But I also want to point out that those that are those of us who are skeptical, those of us that want to put on that part of our brain that's saying like, I do not fall from shyster bullshit. You will. You'll fall for it because we are very biased creatures and we are emotional, irrational meatbags. And if something adheres to our viewpoint, we will follow it.
Wait a minute.
And it takes way more work for you to go, does this make sense? Or am I just going by, this makes me feel good? Because we all do this. It doesn't matter. We all do it because we are emotional, irrational meatbags.
Helen, are you telling us right here that the Brently's miracle snake oil is actually a fraud?
It is. I'm sorry, Bradley. Your miracle snake. Oh. Sorry.
Ethan, I learned about this product that was called Dr. Pierce's Golden Medical Cure for weak women. And I think what it was a mix of was like iron supplements, cannabis, and alcohol. And I think it might have had opium in it too.
That's a good weekend.
Ethan, we talked a bit before there about, how the possibilities of, the human species decimating itself. But I mean, you're a cosmologist. We started looking at, how we're going to destroy ourselves. But come on, we got a cosmologist with us. We got to ask him, what's out there that can really kill us? I mean, are we really at a risk of getting
what'll bring humanity to an end? Do you want to really destroy
asteroids,
all life on Earth, the Earth itself?
What's the biggest threat out there? Is it a gamma burst? Is it an asteroid? Is it a gravitational pull? Is it the sun burning out?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about what's going to get us, right? Thankfully, the odds of getting hit by an asteroid strike like a planet killer, look, because we've had asteroid strikes in the past. Wusses, oh sure, 70% of life on the planet, kill 90% of. Guess what? It grows back if you don't kill it all. That's what life on Earth does. It grows back. And it comes back stronger. And that's what life on Earth does. There are not very many planet killers still left. But I will say there is Comet Swift-Tuttle out there. Comet Swift-Tuttle, for those of you who don't know, is the parent comet shower of the Perseids, the brightest meteor shower of the year. It comes every August, Perseid meteor shower. Great if you don't have clouds. I've had clouds every year for the last 6 or 7. It's been pretty annoying. But when it comes through, you could see hundreds of meteors per hour. It is caused by the breakup of a comet that orbits the sun with a period of 133 years. And it has a very, very small Earth crossing radius. It comes very, very close to Earth. Now, here's the thing. It's going to fly close to some of the outer planets in the solar system, Jupiter and Neptune in particular. And when it does, it gives this comet just a little bit of a gravitational tug.
Okay.
In year 4479, there's about a 1 in
4479.
4479. That's
okay. All right. So I'll be dead. So it won't matter.
Yeah, you'll be dead. You'll be fine.
I'll be so
you'll
dead.
Be safe. Yeah. But there is about 1 in a million chance that this comet is going to strike Earth. And if it does, it is going to hit Earth with the energy of equivalent of about 30 times the energy of the impact that killed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. So I would say that is probably the soonest we have a chance at killing all of life on Earth. So if that doesn't happen, if we survive, it's pretty likely we'll make it for another 1 billion or 2 years. The earliest estimate I've seen is 600 million years, but more and more people are saying 1 to 2 billion years. Eventually, because as the sun lives longer and longer, it heats up. It expands and gets more luminous. All stars do this as they burn through the hydrogen in their core. The physical reason for that is every star has a region in its core where fusion happens, right? Once you have to get over about 4 million Kelvin. And in our sun, the very center of the core gets all the way up to 15 million Kelvin. But as you burn through your hydrogen fuel, your helium core starts to build up. And that pushes the fusion region out and makes the star heat up. The fusion reactions happen faster as a star ages when you build up an inert helium core. As that happens in the sun, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter over time. Our sun today is about 20 to 25% brighter than it was 4 billion years ago. And in another, I usually say about 1 to 2 billion years, the sun is going to get hot enough that Earth's oceans are going to boil.
Okay, so
here's probably the last chance for life on Earth, because once the oceans boil, we've seen what happens to Venus when you get a world where all the oceans boil and you get a cloudy atmosphere. You just create a runaway greenhouse effect. And we think that, yeah, there'll be some extremophiles that might find life somewhere, but the total biomass of Earth is going to go way, way, way down.
So the future's in that magma snail, right? That's the future, I guess.
The magma snail might stick in there for longer than most, but it's even going to be tough for that magma snail unless it can like get water vapor from like the volcanic ashes itself, which maybe there is water inside Earth's crust and maybe mantle too. But that's probably the end for life on Earth. Now, for the Earth itself, a lot of people don't know this, but over the next 5 to 7 billion years before the sun swells into a red giant, the inner 4 planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, they gravitationally affect each other's orbits too. And according to simulations, there's about a 1% chance that one of those 4 planets will get ejected over the next 5 to 7 billion years.
I don't know why I get excited about this stuff.
Percent isn't much, but isn't that cool that there's a 1% chance that one of these 4 planets or more is going to get kicked out?
Like, I'm not going to be around.
A lot of astronomers think that we used to have a 5th gas giant in our solar system, and it was ejected a very long time ago.
Wow. Get voted off the solar system.
This is the type of,
it did. It was the weakest link of gas giants.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Because the more I learn about, like, the way that the universe works and the way that galaxies work, like, I find it so fascinating. Like my little tiny brain and my little punitive, like, you know, objective, like, existence that I have. I'm going to say subjective. It's subjective and objective. Still, I'm like, I find that so much more fascinating than giving myself upward to like a God made the earth and is 6,000 years old. Like, and people just, and we just popped into existence because God said, like, I want to make peoples. Like, the idea of this long process and there is explanations behind it seems much more interesting and fascinating to me than like the simple answers. Like, I don't understand it 100% because I'm not studying it, but still I want to learn more and more about it because it's way more interesting.
Well, look, I'm never going to tell anyone what they should believe.
Right.
But only that when I'm talking about science, I'm asking them to consider if you didn't have information from any authority and you wanted to know the answer to this question when you asked the universe itself, something in the universe, what are you like? What's the answer to this question? What does it tell you? That's all I'm trying to do, is to say, hey, ask it this question, which means make this observation, do this measurement, do this experiment, collect this data, look at this with this point of view. That's how we figure things out scientifically, is we establish, like, well, this is true, right? Like, things are made up of atoms and this is how atoms behave. So if we see this line and this line and this line and this line, then we know that that's hydrogen. And if we see it moving over here or over here, then we know, oh, it's red shifted or it's blue shifted by this amount, which tells us something about its motion relative to us, or how the universe has expanded or contracted, or how the gravitational potential has changed, or what sort of intervening matter is blocking or exciting this material, right? We quantify the effects. We say how much. And that's why we say, look, we're pretty confident that Homo sapiens, our species, that we arose somewhere a few 100,000 years ago in Africa, and that we've continued to evolve over that time. Like, our brains have gotten bigger, we've spread out, we've developed new traits, we're losing certain attributes, we're gaining other attributes, the shapes of our jaws are changing as our diets are changing and our society is changing. Whether you have this in your hand or not, that's something humans are losing. I still have it. I'm very unevolved. You can tell. But these are actual real evolutionary changes that are happening in us that we can see in our own lifetimes. We can see these changes happening to all living organisms. We can measure our genome and find all the information in there. Did you know that an onion has about 5 times as much genetic information in its DNA as we do?
Oh, that explains so much why I hate them.
Onions are amazing.
You
Wow.
might have
so yummy.
you might have an allergy or an intolerance. There are a lot of people who cannot digest onions, and onions taste bad and smell bad to them.
That's how I am with cilantro.
Oh, does it taste like soap to you?
It tastes like soap, and my
Yep,
and
you've got the gene.
my oldest inherited
Welcome
it.
to the crappy club.
Yeah, like my oldest inherited it too. Like they're like, oh my god, cilantro tastes like soap, and I'm like, finally. Like,
Yep. Thanks, Mom.
It is genetic.
Thanks for the good genes, Mom.
Yeah.
Ethan, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate that. In conclusion, it's obviously the cosmos is not designed with us in mind, but we're adapting to it. But if people want to find out more about cosmology and all that, for the layperson, what would you recommend they do?
You know, there are all sorts of good resources, and it really depends on what gets you excited. If you want to look up and get to know the sky, get to do that. There's all sorts of resources that you can learn from. There are planetaria, there's the free software Stellarium, and many other virtual planetariums that you can have on just your phone or your tablet or your computer, where you can sort of see what's out there and where is everything. And if you have clear skies, you can go out and see those things yourself. You can see different things at different times of the year. I would say if you want to learn about what I'm doing and I'm sharing, I'm Starts With a Bang on Twitter, on Patreon, on Big Think, everywhere you go. I have a podcast. I have a video series coming out in a few months. That's a little secret, but it's coming. It'll be fun.
I'm excited.
And there's all sorts of people making excellent science content out there. I would say, look, the classics are still great and they're timeless. Carl Sagan's original Cosmos still holds up pretty well today. There's been a reboot with Neil deGrasse Tyson as host. Brian Greene has The Elegant Universe. But I don't want you to be limited to those. There are people on TikTok. There are young people making science shows that are fun. And, you know, whatever it is that you like, think about it. These are big questions. Whatever it is you want to know, chances are there are experts out there who want to tell it to you, who want to tell it to you themselves with their expert knowledge. Look for them, whatever it is. You want evolutionary biology? It's out there. You want to read about your genome and junk DNA? I just read a great book by Larry Morin at University of Toronto. There's people writing about their science, trying to share what they know and how they've learned it with everyone that's out there. Don't be afraid to pick up one of those books. If you're really interested in cosmology, some recent books I can recommend are In Infinity of Worlds by Will Kinney. I think The End of Absolutely Everything by Katie Mack. That might not be the right name, but that's a good one. And The Disordered Cosmos by Chanda Prescott Weinstein. There are good cosmology books out there. And stay tuned for later this year, because the Encyclopedia Cosmologica in particular, it's possibly like, I'm really excited about it. Like I said, this is one of 4 books, and I've never made a book this beautiful before. Like, it's
We're
going
gonna
to
have
be
you back on so you can
special.
talk about your book, man.
When that book is out, you'll have to.
We're gonna have you back.
I'll have to give you an electronic sign.
We'll pimp your book.
I'll pick my book too.
Ethan,
how many books you want? How many Mr. Franklins you? I'm sorry.
I'll buy your book.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Before I let you go, should we call you Dr. Ethan Siegel? You go by Doctor?
You can call me Dr. Ethan Siegel. Ethan is fine too, but if you want to give me the honorifics, I earned them. In fact,
absolutely. So Of course, as per usual, before I let you go, I gotta have you say, hi, this is Dr. Ethan Siegel, and I took a left to the valley.
Hi, this is Dr. Ethan Siegel, and I took a left at the valley.
Proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance, and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.